Title: The generator roared and blue lights carved through the thick rain like jagged lightning bolts, their reflections shimmering across the water-slicked pavement in twisted, kaleidoscopic patterns. The storm had passed, but the remnants of it still lingered. Puddles on the sidewalk, water trickling through gutters, and the bitter chill of wet air. The screaming sirens had faded, replaced by the dull squawk of police radios. Two officers stepped out of their cruiser, scanning the dim suburban street with tired eyes. And there she stood, Gloria Matthews, self-declared queen of the Oak Hill Estates HOA. Clad in a rain-soaked white blouse that clung tightly to her frame, she stood in the center of my driveway like some furious sentry. Her arms were crossed, her face twisted in righteous fury. Her whole body was trembling, but whether from cold or rage, I couldn't say. She pointed a shaking finger straight at me. "Arrest him," she shrieked. Her voice pierced the stillness of the night, shrill and desperate. Porch lights flicked on across the street as curious neighbors peeked out from behind blinds and curtains. "This man is violating HOA policy. His generator is disrupting the peace. He's ruining our neighborhood." I didn't flinch. I leaned casually against the side of my garage, arms folded, watching the absurd performance unfold like an episode of some low-budget sitcom. The officers glanced at each other with barely concealed irritation. The older one, stocky and graying at the temples, sighed deeply before approaching. "Sir," he said, rubbing a hand over his face like he was already regretting stepping out of the car. "We got a noise complaint. Mind explaining what's going on?" I nodded toward the humming generator beside my garage. "Officer," I said, suppressing a smirk, "do you know what this generator is actually powering?" The younger officer, lean and sharp-eyed, stepped closer to inspect the machine. His radio suddenly crackled to life. He froze, eyes darting between the generator and the message coming through his earpiece. "Wait a second," he muttered, kneeling slightly to peer at the ID plate. A look of realization crossed his face, like a bolt of lightning hitting dry brush. This thing is powering the city's emergency dispatch." Gloria's face turned ashen. That's when I crossed my arms tighter across my chest. "Yeah, it is." Weeks earlier, the HOA had decided to declare war on my generator. I wasn't surprised. I knew what kind of neighborhood this was when I moved in. Meticulously trimmed hedges, pastel mailboxes all matching like they'd been churned out of a Stepford factory, and a board of power-hungry retirees obsessed with controlling every detail. They didn't know who they were dealing with. See, I'm a former military engineer. These days, I work in the private sector, focusing on emergency infrastructure. My generator? It wasn't just some backyard Hummer keeping my lights on. It was a powerhouse, strong enough to keep the block running during blackouts. And when the city approached me about supporting their dispatch system during outages, I agreed. So when Gloria Matthews, clipboard in hand, marched up to my door weeks ago with a smug smirk and a copy of the HOA handbook, I already knew where this was going. "Your generator," she had announced, adjusting her glasses like a villain in a courtroom drama, "is in violation of the Oak Hill Estates noise ordinance." I didn't even blink. It's within legal decibel limits. And I've got permits. She wasn't interested in facts. "Not my problem," she said with a dismissive wave. "The HOA has guidelines. Serenity must be maintained." Serenity. In a neighborhood where children screamed like banshees every afternoon and lawnmowers roared at sunrise. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "Turn it off in the middle of a blackout." "If you don't," she replied coldly, "we'll be forced to take further action." And boy, did they try. Within days, my mailbox was filled with violation notices and HOA fines. Gloria even pushed a motion to classify the generator as an unsightly structure that violated neighborhood aesthetics. She knocked on doors, whipped up hysteria, painted me as a selfish menace. Some neighbors bought into her crusade. But others, like Scott, a retired firefighter, saw right through it. "She's gone off the rails," he told me one evening. "That generator kept our house warm last December. She needs to get a life." But Gloria didn't want a life. She wanted control. And tonight, She had called the police on the very generator powering their radios. "Ma'am," the older officer said slowly, turning toward her. "Did you call 911 to report the thing keeping emergency services running?" Gloria blinked. Her mouth opened, closed. She made a strange noise, half gulp, half gasp. I I didn't know." "Yeah," I said, smirking. "You didn't care either." The younger officer confirmed it over his radio. "Affirmative," the voice crackled. "Backup power for dispatch linked to registered generator at this address." Gloria looked like she'd just swallowed a mouthful of acid. "You're lying," she suddenly shouted. "This is just his excuse to keep that noise machine going." The younger officer ignored her and addressed me instead. "Sir, sorry to bother you. You're clearly within your rights." "No problem, officer," I said, still watching Gloria twitch with frustration. "But maybe let her know that abusing emergency services is a felony." Her face drained of color. "You can't be serious." "Oh, we're serious," the older officer said. "If we weren't stretched thin tonight, we'd be writing you up." She turned and stormed off without another word, but I knew better than to think that was the end. The next morning, I found a fresh violation notice taped to my front door. "Unauthorized equipment. $500 per day fine." She was doubling down. Later, I got an email. New HOA rule. Emergency meeting held overnight. All private generators banned. Effective immediately, Scott called me, practically laughing. "She's gone full dictator," he said. "Told the board your generator's a threat to community health." Yet she was the first one banging on my door for power last week. Hypocrisy at its finest. That evening, two board members, Gloria's minions, showed up at my door with clipboards. "Mr. Palmer," one said, "your generator is in violation. Shut it down immediately." I raised an eyebrow. "This generator powers the city's emergency grid." "Doesn't matter. Rules are rules." I smiled. "I've already spoken to my attorney. State law trumps HOA policy when it comes to critical infrastructure. You fine me, I sue." They paled. "We'll check with legal," the other stammered. "Do that. Also, maybe look up the last HOA that tried this. Six-figure settlement." They left without another word. But Gloria wasn't done. The next day, a tow truck pulled up. Gloria followed it, smug as ever, clipboard in hand. "We're removing the generator," she said. I blinked. "You're stealing my property?" "It's now classified as HOA property under Emergency Bylaw 4.1. I laughed. "This is theft." She faltered. "It's an enforcement action." I pulled out my phone. "Then I'm calling the cops." The tow truck driver shifted nervously. Lady, if he calls the cops, I'm out." Gloria glared. "I hired you to do a job." He shook his head. "Not worth jail time." He jumped back in his truck and peeled out. "You haven't won," she screamed. I smirked. "Good luck proving that." Days later, I got served. Gloria had filed a lawsuit. The HOA accused me of disturbing the peace, ignoring bylaws, operating illegal machinery. She even convinced the city to send out inspectors. And guess what? They found nothing. Permits? Perfect noise levels? Well within range. Power usage? Registered and approved for emergency services. One officer even turned to Gloria and warned, "Ma'am, this is the second false report. One more, and we're pressing charges." The city not only threw out her lawsuit, but fined the HOA for harassment. It got better. A week later, my lawyer called, laughing. "The city's auditing the HOA," he said. "Turns out Gloria's been using HOA funds for her legal crusade. She's in deep." Soon after, a notice went up, HOA under financial review. All actions suspended. By the end of the week, Gloria was removed from the board. Her own allies had turned on her. And me? The HOA offered me a monthly stipend to keep my generator running. The woman who once tried to destroy me was now forced to pay me. She was also forced to sell her house after the HOA sued her for draining funds. I watched her pack up and leave, her life in boxes. Later, she called me. "I need help," she said. I laughed. "Help from me?" "They're worse than I was," she muttered. "The new HOA is destroying me." I let that hang in the air, then said, "No," she sputtered. "But you." "Karma," I said. and hung up. Weeks later, Scott called me, howling with laughter. Karen, sorry, Gloria, just got evicted. Turned out her new HOA bled her dry with real lawyers and airtight rules. She was now living in a rundown apartment. No HOA, no control, that a poetic end to a ridiculous saga. And me? I sat on my porch, cold drink in hand, generator humming peacefully beside me. The neighborhood had changed. The rules were fair now. The community was calm. And Gloria? Just a memory. But if another one shows up, I tap the generator with a smile that I'll be ready.